last week, I had 2 hours of workshop to volunteers who are going for Science Outreach Program. And there I learned a very interesting thing about what's called frames of mind, which is actually written by Dr. Gardner in 1983. Talked about 9 different types of intelligence. And here I like to share that lesson that I learned, and also like to do a little bit of survey with you towards the end, where you can use an extra sheet of evaluation paper as your own notes to go through little bits of slides so you can actually evaluate to see in which area of intelligence you have keen size and sections that you're low on. As I mentioned, there are 9 different areas, but I only mentioned 8 because there's one category that I had 0 go on, which is on spirituality. So if somebody else is apt on that, please teach me on that field. So in terms of multiple intelligence, apparently Gardner separates it into a couple, and I'd like to mention some of them. The first one is a naturalist, which is a person who is more keen to actually digging through their hands by going through the research, going through the actual models such as cars or any sort of design models that you can actually touch and feel and do research on. The second part goes to a musical, the person who's more akin to listening to sounds. So for instance, to postmasters is a person who can actually modulate the tone, vocal range, and maybe the pace. That would be the actual way of actually having a good way of presenting. Then there's a logical people, like myself, who like to lay out logical facts in a row to actually try to convince someone. And then there's the interpersonal person, where a person learns or understands ideas and knowledge by working as a group and discussing as a whole. Then there's the kinesthetic people, and these are the people who are more learners by doing things. Role plays, sports, or even actually having a model that they're actually going to play out the parts of. Then there's people who are not so into kinetics, but more into words. You can think of as Peter Hansen is the epitome of this, spectacular example of this example, because he will use puns, metaphors, alliteration to actually beautify his words and stupor us with his spectacular poetry. Then there's the thinkers. I would like to point Igor and Fred as more intrapersonal, where they give us very thought-provoking ideas and able to make us think. It's more on the closed section compared to the interpersonal. And the last, the method I'm approaching right now is by going visuals. There are people, you can describe the same thing, but as Homer said, or if painting can, somebody help me out here.
Picture paints
1,000 words. Thank you, Lee.
Spectacularly.
Yes. So to some, pictures are more vivid and better ways of perceiving information than just having the words written up for them, unlike Peter Hansen. So these are the 8 types that I worked on at a workshop as types of learners. But I realized this is also a method of expressing ourselves, our ideas to people, be it learning, teaching, or giving a presentation to your fellow committee members, or even to your coworkers. There are various methods that you can approach for. Personally, it was hard for me to think about it in a spiritual way to discuss about scientific outbreak, such as Ebola, to my fellow scientists. So now that I described a couple of these, and I will cover these 8 segments of it, what we'll do is take up the extra paper, evaluation paper you have, and write from 1 to 8. And I will give you 20 seconds per slide, and there will be 10 statements. And all you have to do is write down the number of statements that best describe you. So if there's only 4 statements that describes you the best, just write 4 beside the section. Are we all good to go? All right.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now.
So if you see, once you finish reading it, if you have four of the 10s that you agree with that describes you, then you just write 4.
I got it.
Yeah. Then I'll be moving on to the next slide for section 2. Section 3. Section 4. And section 5. Section 6. Section 7.